The yeas are 231. The nays are 187. The resolution is adopted without objection.
So could the former IRS official Lois Lerner face jail time? Congress voting to hold her in contempt for refusing to answer questions about the IRS matter. The move now clearing a path for prosecution. The issue sparking spirited debate on the floor of the House. Last night, here's how it went down.
Conservatives were targeted. That is clear. Lois Lerner has things to answer. She only answers the parts she wants to.
We're sending a message to future administrations that this type of Nixonian behavior is acceptable. Let's not send that message.
Sad little scraps of political nonsense that they keep trying to peddle as leadership. Mr. Speaker, this rule and resolution are colossal wastes of time.
I could not vote to violate an individual's Fifth Amendment rights just because I want to hear what she has to say. A much greater principle is at stake here today.
That was from last night. This morning now, Florida Congressman Richard Nugent is with us. And, sir, good morning to you.
Good morning, Bill.
Will Lois Lerner go to jail?
Oh, and that's a possibility. But, you know, the whole idea behind this contempt resolution was really to get her to, you know, tell the American people about what's happened within the IRS. This is not the position we wanted to end up in. She could have cut this off right away by just testifying. She went and spoke to the prosecutorial aspect of it at the U.S. Attorney's Office without invoking her Fifth Amendment right. We don't believe she did by her actions and her conversation and her testimony in front of the committee. And then after she says everything she wants to say, then she says, hey, listen, I'm invoking my Fifth Amendment right because I don't want to really answer any of your questions, but I'll answer the U.S. Attorney's questions. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, why risk that instead of just talking? I mean, what makes sense to you?
Well, you know, as a former law enforcement officer, this does not make sense to me. Typically what will happen is, you know, someone will come in with their attorney, they'll even proffer and say, listen, this is what we're willing to testify to, and even ask for, you know, limited immunity or transactional immunity. And to my understanding, she never did any of that. If you feel like you've maybe committed a crime, and obviously you have to go to the U.S. Attorney's Office to get that okayed, but she never did any of that. One wonders, you know, why she would stonewall Congress in this legitimate role to have oversight over, you know, an executive branch agency. No. It doesn't make any sense to me.
So 6 Democrats voted with Republicans last night, but 26 Democrats voted to appoint a special counsel and have the Department of Justice do that. That second vote surprised me a little bit. I didn't think the number would be that high. What are those 26 Democrats saying in that vote, do you believe?
Well, you know, I'm not sure. You'd have to ask them. But, you know, from my standpoint, and our argument was, hey, bring in a special prosecutor. Let's take politics out of it because obviously there's politics or a claim of politics on either side. All we want is the truth, the facts. And I think they will speak for themselves. You know, this administration has, you know, claimed to be, you know, wanted to be the most transparent. But if you look at the actions of this administration, from Eric Holder as it related to Fast and Furious, to Benghazi, and now with the IRS scandal, one has to wonder as to, you know, why would you take this? You know, as a former law enforcement officer and a sheriff, what you try to do is get to the bottom of it and be public about it. And people make mistakes. And that's, you know, that's just human nature. But what you have to do is the chief administrator, which the president is hold people accountable, bring them forward. And in this particular instance, in the IRS issue, not one person has been disciplined over this action.
Now, I think a lot of our viewers don't realize you are a former sheriff.
I am.
And you look at the legal tools that may or may not be at your disposal now. Is it possible that this pursuit is hitting a brick wall?
Well, I mean, it had hit a brick wall when she, you know, she testified in front of the committee, but then she limited her testimony by saying, listen, I'm going to invoke my Fifth Amendment right, after, you know, making all these assertions on a number of issues that she did not break the law, that she did not violate any, you know, principle or rule or regulation. She makes all those, you know, admissions or statements, but then she's unwilling to, explain that when asked a question.
I understand the position you take on that, but yesterday Jason Chaffetz told us, he said, listen, we've got a lot more tools we can go after here. I'm not going to tell you what they are, but what would they be? Or indeed, have you possibly reached the end of the road?
Well, and this is one of the tools, is to actually force her and compel her by holding her in contempt. Ultimately, this is going to go, it could go to D.C. court to make a decision as to whether or not she did invoke or did she waive it when she started, just making all these statements, and particularly, did she invoke after, making statements to the contrary, but refusing to answer questions reference to her statements. That's court's going to make that decision as to whether or not she did in fact invoke.
Sir, thank you for your time today. Rich Nugent, Republican out of Florida.
Well, thank you so very much.
Appreciate you coming on. Okay. Next.